Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, it is about that time. Keep your hands up and keep your head on a swivel. The Haymakers and Submissions Podcast is here. We woke up and chose violence today. Stick and stay for combat sports talk at its finest, coming your way now. All right, welcome everybody to the Haymakers and Submissions Podcast. My name is Dave Drew, and I'm joined by Michael Mills, the real big Chops. Chops, how you doing?
Man, good. Just, getting ready, had Thanksgiving. We did all that, watched some good fights over the last weekend, getting ready for Usyk Fury 2, which we'll talk about, in a couple weeks. But just enjoying it, man. Got a tough one this week. Tough one, my Steelers and the Eagles, man. But I'm ready.
Hey, I need your help.
I know. Listen, Steelers.
No, I'm serious.
I know.
Okay.
Steelers have not won in Philly since '65.
I read that.
I'm hoping they're due. Phillies are having a little bit of issues in the locker room and inside the facility. So hopefully it rubs off onto the field. Hopefully they're not on their game. Man, it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough, man. But I'm ready.
That's the big one. We got this team called the Buffalo Bills coming to town on Sunday. That's going to be equally as challenging.
I know.
We'll see.
It will be.
It's going to be
a good one, man. It'll be a good one.
Awesome season. Hey, man, we got so much to talk about from last week. I'll have to review those fights that we saw last week, not only in boxing, but in MMA. But we also got a really special guest here today to kick things off. We got a great interview coming up. Chops, why don't you introduce our...
Yeah, man, I'm excited about this one. We've got Termite Watkins, Maurice Termite Watkins, Houston native, born and bred in Houston. I don't even know how many of our listeners know this. At 16, he became the nation's youngest Golden Glove winner. He turned pro at 17. His boxing life has taken him all over the globe. It's and he'll get into it, which I'm excited to see. He was on the Olympic team, roomed with the Spinks brothers on there, but he roomed with Sugar Ray Leonard. You know what I mean? And it's just so we're going to listen to his stories and tell us where his boxing's taking him and how it's, what has shaped him to be the man that he is today, man. So let's get to it, man. I'm ready to bring him on. Let's rock and roll.
All right, Termite Watkins, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for joining us, Termite. Glad to have you.
Man, I'm thrilled. Good to be with you guys, man. I'm in good company, so it's going to be fun.
It's good. Real quick, even before we get into it, Termite, how often do you even if it's only one or two punches here or there, when's the last time you threw a punch at a heavy bag, speed bag, and anything?
Every week.
I was gonna ask. Old habits die hard.
Yeah, I have a boxing gym called Fighter Nation, and I go in about a couple of days a week and oversee everything. And of course, when I go buy a heavy bag or if I'm showing a young man how to hit or young lady, I'll get on there and show them some stuff. And then the speed bag, and I'll get on the jump rope and show them that, at 68 years old, I still got it. And so I do it, once or twice a week.
I got you. The form's still there. The form is still there.
You know it is.
Yeah, buddy.
I love to tell stories, so I'm gonna tell you a little story real quick.
Okay.
So one day a couple of years ago, I'm 68 now. I must have been 66, something like that. So I go to the gym. I'm meeting somebody there, and a young lady's there. And she was probably 24, 25, and she was a really, really good fighter. And she had come to work out at our gym. She was just going to work out for a few days, and her sparring didn't show up. And she looked at me and she said, "Hey, old man," she said, why don't you spar me?" And she goes, "I'll take it easy on you." And
did she know who you were?
Well, she learned. So I love to treat ladies like a lady, but she wasn't real ladylike that night. And so I said, I just walked over and I went and I put a headgear on, and I put some gloves on. She goes, "What are you doing?" I said, "You said you wanted to spar." And she says, "Are you serious?" She goes, "I won't hurt you." I said, "You won't hit me." And she says, do you get in here very often? I said, no, I haven't been in umpteen years. And anyway, so I said, come on. And I said, and by the way, you don't have to take it easy. Do what you can to hit me. So she come out there, and first round, she couldn't hit me. I still had that. And
Yeah.
and uh, and she got to where she was trying. And so I wasn't going to hit her hard, but I just bumped her and did a little pivot and bumped her, and she went down. She got up and she was mad. And so she come in and she was trying to well into me. I bumped her again. She went down. I bumped her the third time. She went down. Actually, I did a little body shot to her, just a little one, just tapped her in the gut. She went down. She goes, "What am I doing wrong?" I said, "You opened your mouth." I
Yeah.
said,
Yeah.
"You don't." I said, "Do you realize, sweetheart?" I said, "I've had over 200 fights, between amateur and pro." And I said, "You don't come in a gym." She had 30 something, 40 something. I said, "You don't come into a gym and basically
No.
challenge me in my own gym." So that was the last time I put gloves on.
Pretty
Man, I
cool.
got yeah, yeah. So it is to piggyback off that, we know, like, real quick, how did you get into boxing? And let me go a little further than that, because we've heard the story where you were playing baseball and a local friend or something took you to the gym.
Yeah,
Had you ever been in a gym to see anybody boxing? Did you know boxing was?
yeah.
Did you know anybody that boxed?
Now, I'm going to tell you that story because I love to tell stories. So, what happened, I pulled up to the baseball park. And I mean, I was at the baseball park, and my dad was my baseball coach. And I wasn't any good at baseball. And so, this old green, well, back then it was new, but it was a 1966. And this was in 66, but it was a new truck, emerald green. And the shifter was automatic on the column, and it was a regular cab, and this man had two twin brothers in the back and the man's son. And he walks up to my dad, and I don't drink or anything, but back then, they all did. And
Yeah.
he had a beer in one hand, a cigarette in the other, and dark green glasses. And he says, "Hey, Bill," and he's talking to my dad, "You think Termite wants to be a boxer?" And somebody had been talking to my dad about me getting in boxing. He said, "I don't know, let's call him in." So they call me in. I come running in, and I said, "Yeah, yeah, yeah, I want to be a boxer." So we left the ballpark, went down to my garage. It was a 3-car garage, my dad's, and he put the gloves on with one twin brother and said, "Time." This guy beat the devil out of me. And so after 1 minute, I didn't know if I really wanted to be a boxer. And so all of a sudden I look over and he's putting the other twin brother, putting the gloves on him. He said time again, and we jumped out there, and he just beat the dog out of me. And then he said time, and I look over and he's putting him on his son. His son comes out, and he's a real sharp boxer, and he's tall and lanky, and my head was like a punching bag. And he goes, when it was all said and done, he looked at my dad. He said, "Yeah, Bill, I think he's going to make it." And I thought to myself, what does he think I'm going to make, a punching bag? And but I fought the next night. I lost. A week later, I fought and won, and victory sweet. That's why I like to tell all parents: make sure that when you're being a parent, that you also help your kids be victorious. And if it's you're coaching a baseball team, a football team, help everybody be victorious. It's in our nature. God has created us to be victorious, and when we are, it makes us hungry for more. So I won that fight. The next week, I fought again, lost. The guy that beat me the first time beat me, and my dad got me a new trainer named Kenny Weldon. Y'all may remember that name.
Yeah.
He went on to train Holyfield, and well, I got the boxing ring that he had before he passed, and it had 30 something world champions trained in this ring.
Wow.
And anyway, so that was my story of how I got in boxing. After I had a few, after I had a couple of fights, my dad got me Kenny Weldon, and what was amazing is Kenny was a great communicator. And I went 65 fights without losing, which is unheard of back then. Today, it's just unheard of to do. And there's been people that did it. Ray Leonard did it, and
Yeah.
I did it, and Howard Davis did it, and Holyfield did it. But it's a small percentage of an elite group of people that I like to brag on and say I'm part of.
Absolutely. Now, when he comes to the baseball practice, were you getting in scraps around town? Were you what made him even isolate you to say, hey, do you want to box? Did he see you throwing a jab, messing around? I mean,
Well, great question. Uh, what made him come to me is he had heard that my dad was looking for a boxing gym
mm,
to put me in, but he also knew that I was already getting sent home from school. I'd already got caught stealing at 10 years old. I was stealing candy, and from the store. Got caught. My dad beat me. I never stole anything since I was 10 years
yeah.
old, and so that's how it went down. But
Okay.
he just knew that I got into a lot of fights with a nickname Termite, and I was only 65 pounds, and so I was real small for my age. My son at 10 years old was 120 pounds. I was 65 pounds, so I
Wow.
was
Okay.
little, and somebody would say something, and you got to remember, my dad was a gangster, a real gangster. And so
Okay.
my dad taught me, if somebody looks at you wrong, you hit them. Not if they hit you, if they look at you wrong. And so it backfired on my dad. And I will say this, my dad a little bit later gave his heart to Christ and changed his ways, but his 10-year-old son wasn't changing his ways.
I understand. Yeah. So when he said he saw you had something in you and you could become a boxer, did you have the determination that you were going to give as good as you got, even though you were punching bag that first night? You had no quit in you. You were still giving as good as you got. Is that what do you think that boxing coach saw at you that said this guy has what it takes?
He called me, he used the word scrappy. He
Mm,
told my dad, Bill, he's scrappy, you know, and
can't
and
coach that.
I
Yeah,
was, even though I got my tail whipped 3 times, I was still trying to fight when they pulled us apart. I was still fighting,
I
and
understand.
because I didn't like to lose,
Yeah,
and I didn't like to lose in the street at 10 years old, and I didn't like losing with boxing gloves, and and what's great is the two twin brothers. I'm still friends with them today. Randy Dub, that was one of the guys. He passed away, but
okay.
still friends with the people that helped me get into boxing.
Oh, okay, okay. So is you're preparing and you're going before what was training like back then? Because now even a lot of times, parents don't want to see their kids mistreated by coaches. They don't want to see the coaches going hard at them. Back it was different then. So what was your training like then?
You're so correct. It was so different then than it is now. My dad used he said, if you're going to be a boxer, we're going to be in this together. He goes, I'm going to help you, and he goes, he goes, I'm going to help you. I'm going to get up and take you to run and blah blah blah. So at 10 years old, my dad was getting me up at 5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning, making me go run. He said, if you're going to do this, you got to be all in or get out. And I was all in. And then when he got me Kenny Weldon, and Kenny Weldon was a master at he trained Pernell Whitaker and
Yeah.
Meldrick Taylor and just so many great ones, 30 something world champions. Kenny Weldon was a great communicator, and he had a way of pulling things out of me and helping me and making me do things that I didn't know I could do myself. And then, of course, he would brag on me. And kids need that bragging, because when they do something good, they're like a puppy dog. You tell them how good they did it, now they want more. And so they kept on, I mean, it just kept on. And I just went from not having very much talent to all of a sudden I was the kid that had big heart. I was the scrapper. And then I was the outstanding boxer. I started winning outstanding boxer of all the different tournaments that I would fight into, and of the Golden Gloves, and so, from the time I got with Kenny Weldon, it just changed. And
Okay.
my hat's off to him and all the coaches like him that spend all their time mentoring young men like me because it changed my life.
That's
I understand.
fantastic. And Termite, when you got involved with Kenny and Kenny started training, was that when you kind of knew that this was going to be your future, or was it another moment when you kind of said, "Hey, this is definitely the route I'm going to take for a professional career"?
I'll tell you when I knew I was going to go pro. Uh, as a youngster, I always dreamed of going pro, and I was blessed to be friends with the Kenny Weldons, the Raymond Boyds, which back then was called the Pink Panther, Big Cat Williams. Uh, he was my friend. Um Manny Gonzalez, who was a great boxer, and just all kinds of great boxers. And so I knew what it took to be a great boxer. And at 12, 13, 14 years old, I started boxing with all these professionals that a lot of them I just named. Some of them I didn't, but some of them, a lot of the great ones I boxed with. And then it got to the point by 16 that I was 15 and 16, I was beating all the good pros. And at 16, I remember going to the national tournament, and a coach, I won't name his name, told my dad, Bill, you don't need to take Termite. He's too young for the national tournament. And 16 was about him age. He said, the people he's going to be fighting were all military champions and all service champions and, return Golden Glove champions and national champions. And I told my dad, I said, no, this is what I've trained for. It's where I'm going. So I went, and it was pretty cool. Mike Ayala, you may remember that name. Mike Ayala fought right before me. He won. Then I won. Then Sugar Ray Leonard won. Then and it was just Howard Davis won. And it was just when I won nationals at 16 and become the first to do it. I have to make a confession. I truly was the first one at 16 years old, but there's really one that beat me that can't. He doesn't get any recognition for it. But there's somebody else that won it at 15, but he had to lie about his age and say he was 16. And that was Mike Ayala. Mike
Wow.
Ayala. And Mike was a great fighter because I fought him 3 times. I beat Mike Ayala 3 times. But he could fight. But I was the first indeed at 16 years old to win it. Mike did it at 15. And and Ray Leonard, I think, just turned 17, or he may have been 16, but I beat him because I was the one that fought first. And Ray, I think, was 17,
Okay.
and Howard Davis was 17. And anyway, and it's such a thrill to be able to throw those names around because they were some great fighters. When you think of all those I just named,
Yeah.
man,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Big name.
Absolutely.
And you,
So
oh, go ahead, Tubbs.
no, go, Drew, by all means.
No, because you fought Howard Davis, right, in '79.
I did, and before he died, I called him and told him I was still mad at him, and because he beat me. And I love Howard Davis, and we were great friends until he passed away. And um, we stayed in touch. I talked to him just a matter of weeks before he passed away, and what a great fighter! If you're going to lose, lose to somebody great.
Yeah.
And but I am still mad at him.
So now you're young at the Golden Gloves, and then you win Golden Gloves. Now you have some people that are multiple time Golden Glove winners. You win it, and then what? Like a year later, you turn pro.
Yeah,
At that point, when you won it early, were you convinced there's really nothing in it for me to continue to win this? Why not go get paid? Or what was the mindset between you and your team, or
yeah.
was this strictly a decision on your own?
Great question. And this is really I didn't finish my where I was. So
Oh, but
I won the Golden Gloves, made the USA team. There's 5 USA teams, and
mhm.
me, Ray Leonard, Howard Davis, we were all on one of the team. Matter of fact, we were roommates, us three.
Okay.
And me and Ray, and we went to gosh, Germany, Yugoslavia, Italy. Um, oh gosh, we went all over. We went all over together, and I was just real proud. But when I came back, I knew that I was ready. I was I was 16. I told my dad. I said, I've done everything I can do. You know, sometimes I do have qualms that I didn't go to I didn't stay for the Olympics, but that's a story in itself. We won't. I'll tell you. I'll touch base a little bit, but I made the U.S. One of there was 5 teams, and me and another guy, me and Howard Davis, were the ones that were chosen for the spot to be on the team. Howard got it because I protested. A lot of people don't know this, but the AAU. I don't mean to bash them. They've done a lot of good. That particular time, they did a lot of bad. The AAU Amateur Athletic Union was taking money from our kitty in the Houston Golden Gloves, and we didn't even have money to go to the state tournament, the national tournaments. The last year I fought in state, my dad paid the way. My dad paid all
Wow.
of our way. And so me and Barry Yates, you may remember that, he was a heavyweight. Um, we protested. And if you go to the USA training camp today, I say today, it used to be a couple of years ago when my fighters was here. Uh, there's even a magazine that talks about a couple of guys that took a stand. And when we took that stand, you, the the AAU went out of business. USA came into business, and USA
Ah,
Boxing is still there today.
okay.
I would like to think that I opened the door for them. So,
Absolutely.
so I turned
Absolutely.
pro at 17,
Okay.
and
Wow.
that's when my pro career started. But you
So,
got to remember, I was already beating the good pros, the guys that had had 30 and 40 and 50 fights. At 16 years old, I was handling them, and and I figured thinking as a youngster, man, if I can do this to these guys, and these are some of the best in the world, I'm ready to go pro. I'm ready to get paid for it. And
okay.
but I'm proud that I took that stand for and I'm glad that USA Boxing came in.
So, okay, so now you go pro. You just say, like you said, I'm beating some of the good guys. I want to start getting paid for it. Did you, since you may not have, but since you were 16, did you notice a major step up in competition once you became pro, or since you had been grinding in the gym and at camp, it wasn't much of a difference, or did you notice a difference in speed, strength?
It wasn't a difference because I had already been sparring with all the pros. Uh, you know, just all kinds of great pros that the outer public, may not know, but great pros. But I also started fighting. Back then, you could do it. I don't even know if you can do it now, but amateurs could fight 5 2-minute rounds. And
Oh
when I
wow.
found, yeah, when I found that out, I started making all my fights as an amateur, or a lot of them, not all of them, but several of them I made. And so I got a taste of it, fighting distance as an amateur. And then it was not uncommon back then in those days to go in and spar 8 or 10 rounds a day.
Yeah,
And
wow.
I was doing that with top pros. I'm talking about, you know, the very best of pros. I was doing that with.
Wow. Okay. Well, and
Fantastic.
you had mentioned Howard Davis, Sugar Ray. You guys were all roommates. So how does that work when you're on that Olympic team? Because you all come from different gyms, you all have different coaches, but now you're on the Olympic team. Is he trying to? Is the coach now? Is he trying to change your style? Is he trying to hit? How does that work? And were you guys sparring every day? You Sugar Ray, you Howard Davis. Were you guys sparring each other?
We didn't. We didn't
Okay.
spar a lot, and we traveled so much. They wanted you to rest. We did work out in the gym, but we didn't. I did spar some, but it was other people my weight. Uh, because when I say there's 5 teams, they have 5 teams that are all traveling all over the country. All right.
Hmm.
While we're in Romania or Italy or Germany, but then there's another team that would be in somewhere else. Okay. And so then when we come back to the Olympic training camp, then, we all support each other there, which I got to tell you, the first time that I ever sparred in Colorado, I thought I was going to die with that altitude.
Elevate, yeah.
Oh man, I I was like embarrassed, like, man, what's wrong? I'm
What?
better than this. And hey, there's another one I want to throw a name out. He didn't win a world championship, but what a great fighter! Went into the movie business. It was Randy Shields.
Oh yeah.
Randy
Yeah,
Shields,
yeah.
yeah,
Hmm.
yeah, yeah. He was on our team. What a great
Oh,
guy!
okay.
Yeah, what a great guy. And he was tough. He was tough. And then Sandoval, the champ,
Yeah.
years ago, he was on our team. And I mean,
Loaded.
we had a heck of a team.
The Spin, I don't know if they were at the same facilities, but the Spinks brothers were also on that Olympic team, if I remember correctly. Michael and
Well,
Leon.
they were on one of the other teams. Yes,
Okay.
they sure
Okay.
was. Yeah, they were
Okay.
on. Remember, there was 5 teams,
Yeah.
and they were on it. Yeah,
Wow, man, that's
yeah.
phenomenal.
A term like, I mean, you've had a phenomenal boxing career and boxing life, really. What would you say in your boxing career with the moment, with the moment that you would say you were most proud of?
It was one of the happiest moments of my life, and one of the saddest moments. Now, this is just one of them because I had a lot of great ones. Um, there was a guy, and um, um, I just went blank on his name. He just passed away. Melvin Dennis. Melvin Dennis was a runner-up national champion, a great fighter. Turned pro. He was great pro. He used to take it easy on me when I was 12, 13, because he was that good. But then by the time I was 14 and 15, I was holding my own with him. By the time I was 16, I'll never forget the day that I handled him, and I was the better fighter that day. I knew I had done something big, and I was proud. But I was so sad because he was one of my heroes. And
Mm,
so, to surpass, that's what I wanted to do every day, was surpassing. Then I did it, and then I was sad. And so that
mm.
was one of my times. Another time, which was very bittersweet for me, when I fought for the world championship. Um, it was the last hurrah when Ali fought Holmes, and I think it was Ali's last fight. And I believe he may have had another one, but anyway, uh, Ali fought Holmes. I fought Saoul Mamby, and I went 15 rounds. And if you watch the fight today, which a lot of people call me, different fighters call me. I've actually had some really big names call me and say, "Termites, you really won that fight." It was a great fight, and it just depends on whose eyes you're looking at.
Yeah.
I saw some rounds that I had him 8-7, but then I look at it a different way, and he had me 8-7. Now he it was a unanimous decision, and my hat's off to him because um, I didn't. I definitely, excuse me. I'm sorry. I definitely. It was a war for 15 rounds, and back then you had to take it from a champion.
Yes.
And, quite frankly, I can't say that I took it from him. I mean, I had some really great fighters. It'd blow your mind. Some of the, big names that have told me, Termite, you really won the fight, but I don't know that. I'm honored that a lot of these world champions would say that. I'm thrilled. But the fact is, I don't know that that I did beat. Now, I would never tell Saul that. I know Saul. Saul was another great friend until he died, and I talked to him until just a couple of weeks before he passed away, and I'm still mad at him for beating me. And and you know, when after the fight was over, we had to do a urine test to make sure we wasn't on drugs and all that kind of stuff. And he was standing right beside me, and he reached over and he punched me in the ribs. He goes, "You crazy man!" He actually called me a crazy white man. He said, "You crazy white man." He said. I said, "No, you're the crazy one." You know, he goes, "You're the most dirtiest fighter I ever fought." I said, "No, you're the dirtiest fighter I ever fought." Then we got in an argument, and then we hugged because,
All right.
yeah, yeah,
It was
we,
Trevor
we were.
Berbick was actually Ali's last fight. He did
Yep.
fight home. He did fight Trevor Berbick after Ali. But what you said the coach that started you out said you were scrappy. What was the best part of your game? Was it your defense? Was it your jab? Was it your speed? Was it your endurance? What did you consider
Um,
the best part of your fight game?
well, you just named the things that I would like to think I was strong in endurance. When I was 10 years old, my dad had me out every morning at 4:35, 5:30 in the morning running. And he told me, "Son, if you're going to do it, you're going to do it right." And he invested in me. He paid Kenny Weldon a weekly salary to train me. He didn't make me
Wow.
go to, I went to where all the pros worked out. I dressed with um, um, George Foreman. I dressed in
Wow.
his. Matter of fact, I tell you a little story there. I'm jumping around a lot, but I love story.
That's
So
all
one day I'm 14 years old, and I'm looking for the picture on my wall to see if I got it. I know I have it on my phone, but George had a big afro that day, and there was a guy named Shifty Dandio. He run the gym. He was an old, and I say this, with respect, punchy fighter.
Mhm.
Had big cauliflower ears. He had shoes that were two or three sizes too big for him, and he would stuff his money, his cash money, in the ends of his shoe. And one day, he didn't have any teeth, and I was dressing where the pros dress. And all of a sudden, he come in there and he started chewing me out. "Get your blanky blank out of this deal. You can't. This is where the pros dress," all that kind of stuff. And George Foreman, being the man that he is, he goes, "Shifty, you didn't hear." Now, this is after George come back, won the Olympics before he was champion. He goes, "Shifty, you didn't hear?" He goes, "No, what?" And he talked like this because he didn't have any teeth. And he says, "You didn't hear?" He goes, "No." He goes, "This is Termite Watkins, and he dresses with me for now on." And that's the kind of man George Foreman is. And so I started dressing in the dressing room with George Foreman.
That is
Wow.
cool. That is
Yeah.
Wow.
So
Man.
some of the things that to answer that question, one, I was a good student. Man, I listened, I took it to heart, and then I would go train, and I would do it. But then I want to give the credit to the George Foremans, the Mark Tessman. You remember that name? He was a light heavyweight that could box, and these guys took time with this amateur kid that started training with them, and they gave me their time. They all taught me. They had a lot of hands-on teaching. And so, of course, Kenny Weldon was by far, you know, just an incredible. They didn't come any better. I did have a coach that took over at a time when Kenny couldn't, named Potato Pie, Sweet Potato Pie. And
Okay.
you remember him? And
Yeah.
uh, he did great things with me. But I had great coaching, but I was a good listener, and I mastered my jab. My jab won me my fight. I could hit you with three or four in amateurs, three or four different types of jabs each round. I'd throw an up jab. I would
Mm.
maybe throw a looping jab. I would throw a little Mike Tyson short jab, and I'd throw the long distance jab. I jab so much that it just become part of me. And I used to use my left hand so much that my dad would say, "Termite, throw your right hand." He'd be screaming at me in a lot of my fights, telling me, you got to use your right hand too. Um, but it's I had tremendous stamina because I worked so hard. I had so much great talent that trained me, grown men that took the time. Today everybody's so busy that a lot of grown men don't take the time.
Yeah.
When I could go in a boxing gym and I was one of just a handful of amateurs and have George Foreman tell me things to do, have, all these great ones that I've named, Kenny Weldon, Raymond Boyd, Mark Tessman, Manny Gonzalez. I mean, they just took a lot of time. So mine was a combination. I had a tremendous hook. When I learned how effective a hook was, I would double it up. And then I remember one fight as an amateur, I hit a guy with 5 hooks in a row.
Wow.
Wow.
Boom, boom, boom,
Wow.
boom. And so, um, I contribute my success to I had great people that I looked up to. My heroes were all great, and they were just happened to be people that took the time with me. Hey, and one I don't want to two people I don't want to leave out on that is I had a mom and dad that invested time and
Mm.
money into
Yeah.
their kid. And you know, my mama used to wash my hand wraps every night and iron them when everybody else's, they used to use them for
Yeah.
weeks at a time till they smelled so bad. And my mama man, she would wash my hand wraps every night
Every
and
night.
uh, and then iron them and have them rolled up for me. I had a nanny that made my robes. And, back when everybody had a black and white or red and white or blue and white, I had a purple and pink with sequins, pink sequins. And, uh, and then Joe Frazier got my nanny to make his robe, one of his robes. And
Wow.
several of the great Mike Quarry and Jerry Quarry,
Well,
Hmm.
yeah.
my nanny made their robes. And that's another thing. I want to my hats off to Mike Quarry. He became, even though I was a 135 pounder, 140, and he was a light heavyweight, I used to spar with him every day. Him and
Wow.
Gene Wells. So I I had nothing to do but get better.
Now, now, in the ring on your record, you'd never been KO'd.
Right.
What about in sparring? Is your sparring, like you said, Corey, somebody's heavier, bigger guys? Had you ever been knocked down in training?
Yes.
And but in the ring, who was the hardest shot you ever? Who hit you the hardest?
um. Boy, I had a couple of them. One of them, Alfredo Escalera. He was a former
I,
world champion.
and
Yeah.
put a pin in that because I'm going to go back to that name because I've got some questions. But okay, you said he hit you pretty good.
Yeah. Well, I got to tell you a little story about that, and then remind me to come back to this question because I want to answer that, and I've already forgot the question. I'm fighting Alfredo Escalera. We're in Miami, and we're outside, and Roberto Duran's fighting somebody else, and Alexis Seguia is fighting somebody else,
Ooh.
and they had 5 former champions fighting 5 wannabe champions like me. So a couple of years before this fight, I'd gotten eye damage outside the ring. Okay, outside the ring, I had 2 eye surgery. So I'm fighting in my fight in Miami, outside on TV, national TV, and Alfredo Escalera hit me so hard, and I went. I'd had eye surgery for seeing double, and so I had to have eye surgery, so I didn't see double. And all of a sudden, I went back to double vision, and the trainer that was training with me for that fight, Tony Gardner, he come back to the corner and he says, "Son, are you okay?" I said, "Yes, sir." He goes, "You got hit good." I said, "Yes, sir, I know." I was on the other end. He goes, are you seeing two? I said, yes, sir. He goes, you want to keep fighting? I said, of course I do. He goes, I'm going to give you some good advice. I said, okay. And he really did this in the fight. He goes, you better hit both of them SOBs because one of them's kicking your, and he used another word for butt. And he told me that in the third round. You better hit both of them SOBs because one of them guys is kicking your butt.
Can you
And,
tell? I got you. Okay.
yeah,
That's great.
but anyway, okay. What was the? Ask me that question again.
So you said he was one of the ones that hit you the hardest. Was
Yeah.
there anyone?
Um, another one was uh, I think it was Gene Parado. He was a fighter out of the last name was Prado, out of California. Man, he
Okay.
hit me the first 10 seconds of the. I beat him in California, and he was from California, and
Mm.
he was an undefeated fighter. And anyway, he hit me so hard the first 10 seconds, man, I thought, oh no, what have I got myself into? And I ended up, because of my endurance and my ability to take a good punch and keep my composure, and I was in so great a shape. And I come back and I beat him in a 10 round in his own hometown. Now,
Wow.
well, there's another guy that rung my bell, and I beat him 12 out of 12 rounds. But I got to give Rocky Ramon. He was
Okay.
a local fighter, and some of the good guys that beat him. He never made it to the big times, but this guy could punch, and he was a puncher. Um, but he hit me first round. I thought of 12 rounds, and I thought, oh my goodness, this guy's out to hurt me. And
No.
so, and then there was one more that really rung my bell, and I'll close this part of it with this. I'm trying to think of his name. He was from the islands. Um, I'm trying to think of the name of the islands. Anyway, he come to Florida and fought me, and he hit me the first round. I won the fight, but the first round he hit me so hard that the third round, my dad hauled off and slapped me in the ring. He goes, "Son, you're losing the fight." And finally, the fifth round, he come back and he goes, "Son, I'm going to stop the fight. Are you okay?" And I said, "Dad, I'm okay." And then I got my composure back and I went out and beat him. But for 5 rounds, I didn't know where I was. After the fight, I didn't even know who won the fight.
Wow.
They had, my dad, I had to tell me.
So he rocked you, but just muscle memory kept you going the entire
Yes,
fight.
sir. Yes, sir. And,
Wow.
and and again, I was in, because of all these great fighters that I had the chance to work with, I was in great shape.
Hmm.
Gene Wells, one of the finest boxers I've ever sparred with in my life. He was a middleweight, and me and him used to go. And Mike Corey, we used to go toe to toe. And Mike, even though he was heavier, he wasn't a big puncher,
Ah.
and so we would just go toe to toe. But I'm so thrilled, and my hats off to all these people that took the time when I was 12 and 13, 14, 15, 16, that they all helped me. I was blessed.
Okay.
And that's awesome, Termite. And you're giving that back now in your gym, right? In your Fire Nation gym. Talk about that, because you we're so appreciative of your time today. But if you could talk about your gym before we sign up, that would be great.
Yeah, I have a gym called Fighter Nation. The biggest thing of my whole career that I want everybody to know is that I'm a Christian. I'm real proud of being a Christian. I'm not a Christian that holds it back and mumbles it under my tongue. I am a Christian. And anyway, um, and forgive me, you're going to have to blank this out because I just lost my thought on where I was going to go with that. What was the question again?
Just talking about your gym, the Fighter
Okay,
Nation.
so Fighter Nation is a Christian-based gym. Um,
Okay.
my pastor Johnny Brady is actually the one that come in one day, and I'd been through some tough times, and he said, "Hey, this is your new boxing gym." I said, "What do you mean?" It was a basketball gym. He goes, "This is your new boxing gym," and he goes, "Fighter Nation." I said, what are you talking about? He goes, yeah, this is your new ministry. And I said, man, Johnny, I'm going through all these other things. He goes, this is your new ministry. He goes, it's not about you. And I'm so thankful that he told me that, because sometimes we get to wallowing in our own pity,
Yeah.
and it ain't about you. And he was right. And then a year or so later, we opened it up, and we've been there 15 years now, and
Wow.
we've helped thousands of kids.
Wow. Okay. Wow. That's awesome. That is awesome. Now, and real quick, when to get to Escalera? You
Yeah.
fought him, and then you said, and then you had like a 7 year layoff or 6 or 7 year layoff. And if you can, it's up to you how much you want to get into it. But what led to that? Did you lose the desire? What led to the layoff?
No, and I'm so glad. I hate to tell you this. I'm going to. I'm going to tell you. I'm going to be thankful, because I told you all the good stuff, and I got to tell you the bad stuff. Uh, and this is part of my testimony, and part of what I tell other fighters during that layoff time. Good observation, by the way. And but during that time, I fought for the world championship. Okay, 1980. Had a pocket full of money. Back then, I got paid real good. I went 15 rounds. I got paid $25,000. That fight today would be $25 million.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're
So I get that. After the fight, I got introduced to cocaine, and now for the next couple of years, or several years, I was I was functional. I worked. I took care of my family, and I was functional, but I was really on cocaine, and I thank God that my ex-wife was strong enough that she said either the cocaine or us, meaning her and the kids, and I knew she meant business, and I quit it after several years, uh, cold turkey, and I recommend it, if somebody out there hears this and you got a drug problem, quit. Man, you can go to Termite Watkins at yahoo.com, and I'll help you. I don't care who you are. Termite Watkins at yahoo.com. That's my email. I can't give you my phone over this,
Yeah.
but but
understood.
contact me. I'll help you. You need help. You can't. It's very unlikely for people to stop on their own, and I did without going to a rehab, but it wasn't on my own. I had my kids and my ex that I quit for, and I knew they meant business. And I just want to say, if anybody's out there trying to help somebody else, don't cut them no slack. Don't cut them no slack. People that do drugs will lie to you. They'll tell you things you want to hear. But but my drug period, I stopped, and then if you'll notice, I started back up. If you notice, George Foreman started back on his comeback at that same time.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. So me and George we fought in, and I'm so thankful that George allowed me to fight on his card. Even though I had done very good as a pro, he was the big guy. And me and George fought in Galveston, Texas. And then me and George had two other fights in, I think it was Wyoming or one of those states. And, but I went through maybe a 5 or 6 year period. Really, it was about a 4 or 5 year period on the drugs, and then it was a recuperating for a
Mhm.
year and a half, and then when I got to get my hats off to the guy that made me the offer to make a comeback here in Houston. There's a guy named Mattress Mac, and a big furniture guy. And matter of fact, he had heart surgery today. I understand he come out good.
Good.
Prayers
Mattress
to him.
Mac, yeah, he made me an offer to make a comeback, and I come back and had, what was it, seven, eight, 9
7 or 8 fights.
fights,
Yeah.
yeah, something like that. And here is why I quit. One day, um, I'd had one champion, I don't remember his name, pull out from me. We had actually signed a fight, and it didn't happen. And one day I got out of bed, and I was 31 years old, and my body just hurt,
Hurt.
and it didn't take it like it used to. And I said, as much as I hate to, it's time to give it up. it's time to give it up. And so I gave it up, went into the car business, went into the oil business, and then I finishing my working career off with I'm back in the business that I grew up in, the termite business and the pest control business. And so anybody from Houston, Texas hears this, Termite Watkins Pests and coastal fumigators. I own them.
Okay, now real quick, when you talk about Fighter Nation, it is a Christian-based gym, Christian-based boxing facility. Is your church near it, beside it? Are they on the same property, or how does that set up? You give you a moment to speak about your church as well.
Yeah, right beside it.
Okay.
I'm a member of Fellowship of the Nations, and we have a church. It actually started off as a little Baptist church 60 years ago,
Mhm.
and that's where my dad gave his heart to Christ. And my dad actually went to church to whip the pastor, which is my pastor's. With my pastor is my best friend. It was his dad, and he got a dose of something else. He got a dose of Christ,
Ah,
and
That's cool.
and and then my dad and him went to be best friends, and me and my pastor Johnny Brady are still best friends today. And
wow,
so,
that is
if you're in
phenomenal.
Houston, Texas, come see us at Fellowship of the Nations. The gym is Fighter Nation, and we'd love to see everybody. And everybody's at home at our church,
Okay, okay, no,
and we're non-denominational. And
okay,
hey,
Excellent.
if you will allow me to, if we're getting close to the end,
Mhm.
I want to say a few words, if I may,
Absolutely.
of,
absolutely.
of encouragement. um, if you're out there and you've had a drug problem, or maybe you went through a divorce, I did that too. If you're having, if you've lost everything you own, I've done that too. Okay, uh, don't give up. Life has turned out great. My pest control company has been incredible. I made maybe in my career, maybe the greatest comeback I've ever had was in my working career, and it's from taking a chance and losing everything years ago to coming back and doing really really well. But I also want to close it with this: I keep Christ first.
I understand.
Okay,
Yeah, absolutely.
and next to Christ, and this is my my comment to all the men out there. I have the most incredible wife that a man could have. I went through a divorce. I met my wife. Her name is Cindy, and she definitely the right one. She got behind me. I've accomplished more in the 15 years we've been together than I did all of my whole life. And I just got to tell you, men, you know, behind, the old saying, behind every great man, there's a greater woman. There's a lot of truth to that. And my hat's off to my wife, Cindy Watkins, because she and I met when I was at one of my lowest times. And
Mm,
it was at my lowest time financially, and but we fell in love with each other, and it's just amazing what you can do when you're a team. Team up with your wife. Don't be the
yeah,
boss. Don't be be a leader. Don't be a boss, and be a team player. Me and my wife got a team, and we got a team between the two of us of 7 daughters and a son. We have 14 grandkids and a great granddaughter,
Cool.
that's
and
phenomenal.
me and my wife, we lead our team. We, um, she's I'm not the boss. She's my equal. She's my partner. And all
Yeah,
you men, use your wife, for something good, because man, behind every great man, there's a greater woman. Okay,
yeah,
I just
absolutely,
had to throw that
absolutely.
in.
No, absolutely. We appreciate it. We
That's
appreciate someone who's been there, someone who's experienced. You're speaking from experience. That's the greatest teacher. That is
Hey,
absolutely
hey,
the greatest teacher.
hey. Speaking of my wife, she just walked in here.
Hey, Miss Watkins, how are you
how
this
are you?
evening?
Hi, I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. So, real quick, what is it like to be the wife of someone, and especially so close? So, where you are, he's traveled the world, everybody knows him, and is where with the gym at church, he's being pulled a million directions. How do you guys find time to work on Team Watkins and make sure you're a strong family unit with God leading?
We just do a lot together, as much as we can together. And I think he's amazing. We really appreciate each other. That's a
I understand.
huge thing. He's
I
been through a
understand.
lot. I've been through a lot. And when we met, we just are so grateful to the Lord for bringing us together. And
Oh, no.
so we're just grateful. And so I love him to death. I think he only has one speed, which is 100 miles an hour. And he's like the Energizer Bunny on crack cocaine. He just never slows down. But it's okay, you know. I mean, he's amazing. He's the sweetest husband. I tell people he's the kind of husband every woman just wishes they had. He's
No.
just precious, such a servant. He's the most encouraging person ever.
Yeah.
Like, he just wakes up every day just happy, positive.
Happy to be like, yeah. No,
It's-
are you a boxing fan?
Yes,
Do you?
yes, I am.
Okay.
Now,
Okay.
I didn't start out really knowing that.
Tell them what you first started.
So, yeah, so I have 4 daughters. Before I met Termite, I have 4 daughters, and all I knew was ballet.
That are my daughters now.
Yes, yes. Our children are each other's.
Right.
But
Okay.
we had, all I knew was ballet and piano lessons, and they couldn't hit each other. And then I meet Termite because they're little girls. I taught them to be little
Yeah.
ladies. And I meet Termite, and I'm like, "You do what? You box? Okay, well." Like, why do you hit each other? What's the purpose? And so, but after I learned about boxing, I appreciate it for what it is, and I enjoy it. And I mean, I don't like to see the girls getting beat up, but I understand. But it's a good sport, and he
Let,
loves it. It's his passion, so it's my passion too.
let me ask you this real quick before we get out of here, Termite. Seeing that they
You
did
got all the
ballet.
time you want.
All right. Seeing that they did ballet. Did that ballet help their footwork translate a little bit into boxing? Did you see, like, did it help at all? Were they a little bit more coordinated than anyone else who would have started boxing just fresh off the street?
I am for ballet. I started to do ballet when I was a kid, and then I started traveling a lot, and I didn't get time. Somebody wanted my dad heard that ballet was good for fighters, and so he was going to do it. I never did, but I'm all for ballet as well as jazz dancing for fighters. I think it's
Absolutely.
great fun. Now, I will say this. Y'all want to hear me yell? Is Caitlin there?
No, she's not.
Oh, I was going to bring one of my daughters in. You remember I've got 3 daughters of my own and a son, and my wife has got 4 daughters that are now my daughters. And all of my 7 daughters, they can punch and they can take care of themselves. And so I have taught them how to hit, and they go to the gym with me every so often. And anyway, I'm just so blessed.
Absolutely.
I'm just blessed.
Absolutely. It shows. It shows. Mr. Watkins, Mrs. Watkins, we want to thank you so very much. In Termite, don't get it twisted. We definitely would like to have you back on, and talk to you, as much as you'd like to come on. We'd love to have you on. But again, we thank you so much for, giving up your time and joining us tonight.
Let's get together because I want to catch you up on the movie.
Yes.
Absolutely.
That's-
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely. And we will definitely keep in touch and contact, and we'll work something out and see what your schedule's like, early beginning of 2025, and we'll get you back on, and we can do this as often as you guys would like.
You got it, man. Hey, y'all have been great.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so very much. Appreciate everything.
Okay.
Take care.
Thank you, guys.
Bye-bye.
All right, that was great. Termite Watkins and Mrs. Cindy Watkins joining us as well.
Yeah.
So great interview. Chops, we got to wrap this one up here.
I know it went a lot longer than we expected, but
awesome.
We got great conversation. Yeah,
Goodness, yes.
Yeah.
Hey, just real quick though, that Navarrete fight.
Listen to me, and I know it'll be. Normally we review a fight the week after, but I want to talk about Robeisy, Ramirez, Espinoza, and Navarrete next week because there's some things we want to get into that won't even be breakdown. It may just be conversation on the fight, which I'm looking forward to doing.
You got it. Hey, for Chops, I'm Drew. Thank you for watching, everybody. Don't forget to subscribe to us. We have our Twitter X channel. We have our Facebook channel. We're also on the ESPN network every Friday night at 7 p.m. Check us out on Roku. Take care, everybody. Thanks for subscribing. Don't forget to hit the like button, and we'll talk to you next week. Thank you for watching the Haymakers and Submissions Podcast. You can find us on the ESEN network on the Roku app every Friday night at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time beginning on October 4th, 2024. Check us out on Twitter X. Our handle is @HaySubPod, capital H, capital S, capital P. You can also subscribe to our YouTube channel so you don't miss a single episode. Just go to your web browser and type in www.youtube.com/@Haymakers and Submissions Podcast, as we will drop content weekly. Whether it's boxing, MMA, or wrestling that gets you fired up, you'll get all you need right here at the Haymakers and Submissions Podcast.